one.
Hi, everybody. John Townsend here. Welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live show. It's a weekly show we do, which is basically a webinar of question and answer when you got questions about all sorts of things. And life is important these days, and the way we live our lives is important these days, and our relationships are important. So something about relationships, your adult sons, your adult daughters, your little munchkin sons and daughters, your own parents, your spouse, somebody you're dating. By the way, we don't think you should be dating and have a spouse at the same time. We don't think that helps. But also issues like, the emotional world, behavioral world, addictions, depression, anxiety, stress, and goodness knows we've seen enough of that. And also business, finding your calling, leadership issues, organizational issues. We try to just kind of stay with the issues that people are concerned with in their day-to-day lives and give you an answer that makes sense and understand, where you're coming from and the way that that your personality and your style will fit the answer. So it's not kind of we don't want to give you a cookie cutter. We want to give you something that helps you and matters to you. And to help all this happen in the two ways that you connect with us, one being your voice, and we'd certainly love to have your voice because then I can hear you, you can see me and hear me, and it's a better communication. But if you can't do that because you're in the office and everybody's walking around you, then you can text your answer or your issue or question, and we can get it to you. And then to make all the magic happen is our great producer, Stacy. Hey, Stacy.
Hey there, John. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live show today. And like John said, if you are not able to call in, you can type your question in the comments on whichever platform you are viewing the show from. That might be YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can put the comments in there and we will read your questions and John will answer. But we would love for you to call. So grab your pen and your paper. I'm going to give you the number to write down and call into the show. So that number today is 1-877-853-5257. Again, 877-853-5257. And once you dial that number, you're going to enter a meeting ID code. And that ID code is 876-5437-2012. Again, 876-5437-2012. We're glad you're here. We want everyone that needs help to call in. We've got an hour for John to help you with your questions, so don't be shy and let's get started. All righty.
You might have seen, while Stacy's interacting with the folks that are trying to get on, you might have seen that that brief video that we sent out today earlier about guilt. And the funny title is The Gift That Keeps on Giving, which is sort of actually ironically true because if you have a guilt issue, it's really sort of pernicious. It lasts a long time if you don't deal with it. But the idea being that guilt, there's nothing good about guilt. And I don't mean that there's nothing good about feeling bad for what you did. There's a lot good about regretting something you did that was unkind or unloving or whatever. And, the science and the Bible are very clear about this. And in the Bible, it's called repentance, right? But guilt itself is different than a thing that is called remorse. And remorse is a healthy feeling to have. It's when you care about another person and your impact on them, and you want to do whatever you can to make things right. Apologies, make some kind of restitution, who knows? But it's about the other person. Guilt is about ourselves and how bad we are and our way to self-punish. And that never did anybody any good. When you look at guilt, what you see is it ends up staying focused on you, and it's unrelenting. You just can't punish yourself enough for doing something bad. In fact, it's sort of God's job to forgive, right? And so we try to do it all ourselves, and it doesn't work. So begin to thinking, if you struggle with guilt, is this a healthy guilt? Is this a healthy feeling called remorse, where I want to talk to them, I'm sorry, I want to ask forgiveness, do whatever I can. It's about them. And then I receive forgiveness from God and others, and I feel better inside, and then I'm able to move on, be a better person, learn lessons? Or am I just flagellating myself over and over again? And it helps a lot to look at it that way. A big part of the problems with guilt or when we sort of don't feel safe in letting other people know what we've done that was wrong. And it's hard, and it's called confession, right? And sometimes it's hard to be with a safe group of people, or even to somebody that you've had a bad impact on for whatever reason. And if they're sort of continue beating you up, or they continue piling coals on your head, where you kind of start to go, okay, I just got to do this in my mind, in my living room. I can't do it with other people. That's why it's so important to find just a few. You don't have to have a lot, a few safe people that can say, yeah, you did that. It wasn't okay, but I'm on your team. I'm for you. I want to help you. And that is so much better than either being all by yourself in your head, even in your head with God. God says even that's not enough, and he made everything up. He says it's not good that we be alone. And what he's saying is, God made a universe where there's a not good in this universe. And the not good is that all you have is me. I'm going to make some other people, in this case, Eve, and then wherever, 7 billion that we have now, 8 billion. And I want to make them, because I'm making a system where just we call this vertical. The vertical to God is essential. Essential is always number one, but I'm also going to make community and people. So if you want to get rid of guilt and deal with it, you really have to take that big leap and find a few people to say, something happened and I wasn't who I should have been. I wasn't my best self. And I'd like to know that you're still okay with me. Sometimes we feel like I'm not going to be okay until the person that I impacted is okay with me and forgives me. And watch out for that, because that's kind of a trap. Because what if the person has an issue with, they just want to stay in a blame state, or they want to stay mad at you, or they want to kind of hate you forever, or worst case, what if they die? Now what, right? So you don't want to make your feeling alive again and without guilt again. You don't want to make your feeling of being better dependent on them saying things are okay, them feeling good about you. Man, then you're sort of in trouble. It's very, very helpful when not only God forgives us, and he says he does if we do what he says he does, which is to go to him. But if there's just some people who just say, I know they're still mad at you. I know they hate your guts. I know they'll never forgive you, but you're okay with me. It's like kind of pouring, antiseptic all over a burn. You kind of go, okay, well, it's not just me. 1, 2, or 3 people help enormously that way. So don't let the guilt of gift keep on giving. Change guilt to remorse. Get some people in and go live your life. Okay, Stacey, you said a ton of people are starting to try to get hold of us and talk about some things, right?
Yes. If you are trying to call in on our phone line and you're getting a busy signal or not able to get through, keep trying us. There are some technical difficulties, but otherwise you can still type your questions for John in the comments on the platform. So John, your first question comes from Jenny over on Instagram, and she has messaged asking about, she read the email blast or the e-blast this morning. And she said, I've gone through one of your workshops with you and Henry out in California before. I have read your books. I'm healthy with my boundaries, but I have some people in my life that are smooth talkers. I get called anything from a psychobabbler to a self-care junkie, and they're very quick-witted. And I'm wondering, how can I respond to people in my life like this who come at me in a derogatory way for the healthy things that I have learned and put into myself?
Goodness gracious, here you are spending all this energy. You come to growth skills workshops in California that Henry and I do, and you read books and you're really trying to improve yourself. And that takes a lot of energy and time and money and focus. And you got people, trashing you. Not good, Jenny. Sorry about that. Yeah, we got some way to handle that. First off, my hunch is that either something in you is, I don't know, I would say, making you vulnerable to these yahoos who think that personal growth, spiritual growth, emotional growth is psychobabble. They tend not to be healthy people, and they tend to be people who are terribly, terribly afraid of other people learning this, either because they can't control the person, which I'll get to you in a second. They're trying to control you, or because they're projecting their own brokenness onto you and they can't deal with it. So you get to, you're the scapegoat. Or I think the other one is they just like, they're just jerks. Some people are just mean when they see somebody that they kind of envy and all that. Whatever their motivation, we got to help you with that. So here's my rule of thumb for when you're around. I think you called it quick-witted, smooth talker people. Some people call that fast processors, slow processors. I call that sometimes shallow processors, deep processors. It doesn't make the slow processors don't sound like they're dumb. They're just deep, but they're faster. I mean, they're more adroit and faster with equipment, that sort of thing. Number one, we got that kind of person, whatever the issue is. Right now, they're making fun of you for being a growing person, but they could be because of cooking or sports or whatever. In public, if it's a team of people, if you're having dinner, wherever, don't compete, because they just escalate and go psycho, and then you're worse off. Don't compete. All you have to do is smile, yeah, and then just change the subject. However, if this is a person that matters if they don't matter to you, there's somebody's cousin's cousins, just blow it off, let it go. They're not important. Just get out of your head. But if it's somebody that matters to you, it requires a conversation. A one-on-one, not in public, not at dinner, not at church conversation where everybody's around and people can watch the gang up on you. And you do several things. The first one is if they're a nice person, but they just tend to do that, then you're just vulnerable, and you say, Lois, we're good friends, but that when you say stuff like psychobabble, it sort of makes me feel shamed a bit. And I don't think you'd want me to say things like that about you in public. You appeal to the golden rule. Would you really want me to treat you that way? And if they're like not really severely pathologized, if they're just sort of like a nice person who just does this and it's a bad habit, a lot of them will go, hey, sorry about that. And just say, look, let's have a talk about psychobabble and talk about maybe what else is about. Let's have dinner about it. But can you just not, it's not funny to me and it makes me feel bad. Do you mind? So that's number one. And if they are more pathological and angry and all that and blow you off, that's when you have to say, this is going to affect our relationship. And I'm sort of like how vulnerable I am with you and how much time I want to spend with you. I wouldn't want to be like that. But start with the vulnerable, see what happens. And a lot of those people just go, yeah, my spouse tells me the same thing, or my friends tell me, or my kids tell me I'm too mean. But start with that. My point is, you got to do something. Don't let it stay. Smile in public, have the conversation in private. And who knows? Sometimes somebody that's healthy, that has good boundaries and is nice, will make them feel like, I'm not who I need to be. And Jenny is kind of who I need to be. And maybe they get into growth. You never know. Okay. Good luck.
Absolutely. Okay. John, your next question is coming from Tim, and he is out of Kentucky. And he says, hi, John, I am actually in my office right now where I would be calling you. And he says he hopes he does get to talk with you someday. But for now, he says that in the last year, it has been very difficult going back from working remote in his home for an entire year after the pandemic to going back into the office. He would like to establish a open line of communication with his boss and says that he wants to request being able to work back at home again. He knows that his boss is somewhat difficult to deal with, and he's asking what the best way would be to go about this approach because it's better for him. He's more productive and gets more time with his family.
Okay. Now, Stacy, just kind of check it and make sure I've got let's do a little fact check. So he, because of COVID, et cetera, he was remote for a year, worked well for him, and now he's back in the office. And because not only is his boss's presence not working very well, but also because he's just more productive at home and he wants to know how to have the conversation with the boss that he'd like to do that.
Correct.
Okay. Tim, I'm going to take you through a few, in decision making, we call it a decision tree. Like if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. That's the best way to answer a question that like you have. And a lot of people have your question. First is, I would want to check out if those two reasons are equivalent or as one is causing the other. The two reasons you gave, I'm more productive with my family and all that's better, and boss and I don't really connect. Sometimes it's true that if you fix the boss thing or the crazy relationship or the bad culture, whatever, you fix these things, then people go, oh, you know, I like being at work because work is good and I drive there and I do a good job and I'm with people I like. I'm doing things that I like and I got a good boss and I love being home with my family. Some people say problem solved. So before I went into the pitching to the boss why you need to leave, or sorry, not leave, but work remotely, I would want Tim to think through with Tim, could one be causing the other? I've seen so many times a person will say, I like it. I like being with people, you know, and I've got a tickle in my throat and I hope this doesn't blow people's ears out. And I won't take long. Sorry about that. And they go, I love my family. I love being at home. I love, you know, my Labrador Retriever and my 70-inch TV and all that. But I got a good place and people are nice and I feel growth there too. Work that out in your head first, because you may go, all right, my conversation with my boss is going to be, and this is what it's called in the literature, the organizational leadership literature, is called managing upward, Tim. When you're not managing someone else that you can say because you have some authority with them, I need you to pull this lever and push this button. You can't do that because that's your boss. So it's a whole different science of how do you manage this person. And it's basically by managing by influence. And I think one of the keys of that is appealing to their own pressure. Your boss is under pressure. Somebody is counting widgets with him and expecting him to make things happen weekly and monthly and quarterly. He's under pressure. All bosses are under pressure. And it really helps to get things moving is to go to him and say, you know, all right, Bruce, I'm a team player and I appreciate the mission of this place and I appreciate working with you, that you trust me for these tasks. And I know you've got pressure on you and I want to ease the pressure on you. So whatever I can do so that the people that you report to are happy with your performance, I want you to win. They never hear that. They never hear that, Tim. They never hear that from me. They just they just hear, I need more. This is okay. This isn't okay. What about me? Which we have to do. But when there's somebody saying, you've got these burdens on your back and I'm willing to be the player you need to help that, it makes so much difference. And then you say, then he says, okay, thanks. And you say, well, given that, since I've gotten back from remote, I've realized that I don't have the relationship you with that I have. And I need to know whatever I need to do to improve our communication. And maybe there's something you can do. And then he'll say, what do you mean? And you say, well, whatever it is, you know, you don't get back in time sometimes, or if things are vague and I don't have clarity about what I'm responsible for. I don't get resourced for what I'm supposed to do. Even when I do get clarity, I feel like I can't please you. And it's always, there's a lot of critical things, but I never hear how I'm doing. I don't get direction, whatever it is, or you're not available. And let me know what I can do better. And you have sometimes a very robust, healthy conversation. And he does his changes, you do your changes, and you go, it's not bad. That was decision tree over here. Decision tree is over here. You've done all this, you know, even if you guys love each other, he's a great guy and you work at everything, but your year at home made you convinced that it's better and you're more productive and happy at home. Then the conversation, think about where I started with the other decision tree. It's the same place as Bruce. I like being here. I feel like I'm in a good place and I like what I bring and I like the mission and I like working with you. But I need to talk with you about moving back to the remote. Now, here's what I would do if I were you, before you, Tim. I don't know, Bruce, you do. I would map out before the conversation what his objections would be. Because he's going to have some objections. I mean, a lot of people are getting pressure to get people back to work because they don't think it's productive or because they don't feel it's connected or the culture or whatever. It's just mainly the objections tend to be culture's not strong anymore because people aren't kvetching and hanging out in the coffee break and seeing each other. So they don't feel the morale and the connection and the trust. By the way, get Pat Lencioni's new book, Working Genius. He talks a lot about these dynamics. It's very, very good. The second thing, though, and probably I should have said this first because it's more important, they believe that productivity is suffering and have an answer for that. He may come at you and say, it's been proven that your productivity is down 15%. And I'm glad you're still with us, but it really tanked him while you were home and we want to get it back up. You got to have an answer for that. And the answer might be, well, you tell me what I can do while I'm home and I'll do it. And just ask for a trial period. Like, I'm motivated. I want to give you not 15% down, I want to give you 10% up. So what do you need from me? And I will try to structure my life at home so I've got more to do. Now, honestly, if you can't do that, if you just say, well, I'll try to do better. If I was the boss, I'd say, right, 15% down, you're going to try to do better. Well, trying to not really a strategy. So come up with solid reasons why he is better off culturally and why he's better off performance-wise by letting Tim work that. Talk to some people, do some research, get the homework, because he is going to say one of those. He's not going to say, well, if you're happier, there you go. He's got pressure on him. So do the homework, Tim. Good luck. Big deal, and the models, if you read Gallup at all and Forbes, the models are all over the place. I mean, nobody has landed on the model. It's either all at home, or it's all there, or it's the hybrid. Everybody's figuring that out. And I don't know if it's going to end up anywhere besides a hybrid. And I haven't done a lot of research. Maybe the guys writing every book on this is, but it seemed to me that the hybrid is going to be where everything ends up, as Zoom and Microsoft Teams and all those things are better and better and better. Makes a hard argument when it's a long commute and there are other factors and it's so convenient, even though it's not as good as in person. It'll never be as good as in person, but it's getting better. So just FYI.
Absolutely. John, I want to give everybody the number one more time. If you are trying to call into the show and you're receiving an error message, it's because the platform is experiencing some technical difficulties due to updates this week. But keep trying. And if you can't get us today, please do come back with us in the following weeks to come. So the number is 1-877-853-5257. 1-877-853-5257, and you'll need a meeting ID code to enter the waiting room, and that is going to be 876-5437-2012. Again, 876-5437-2012. Okay, your next question is up unless you had something else you were going on to.
I would like to hear a question.
Okay. All right. So you have Derek, and Derek is coming to you from your Twitter. And he says, also he's from Pennsylvania. He says that he loves his wife dearly. They've been married for 20 years, and they always work through any kind of major issues that come up in life due to kids, finances, anything, except when it deals with something personally with his wife. He says, I would like to learn how to deal with stonewalling. He said, I don't really know how to frame my question, and I know that you like a question.
We'll get there, Derek. We'll make it. Don't worry about it.
He says, when my wife gets upset with me for something that has to do with her directly, she tends to stonewall me for days. And it is just so difficult to walk around silent for that many days. How can I deal with this and put a stop to it?
That's really sad. I mean, 20 years and you pulled off kids stuff and finance stuff, and way to go. I mean, that's a real accomplishment in this culture. And now when it gets to between you and her, whatever the personal things are, love, sex, faith, communication, control, power, She shuts down. Sorry about that. Here's the ironic part of this, Derek. When you look at the research, the marital research, the number one experts in this are John and Julie Gottman, the Gottman Institute in Seattle area. And they have mapped out which, what does the women do, the wife does that's more negatively impacts the husband, and then what does he do? And the wife's number one thing, there's always exceptions, but then statistically from what the Gottmans say is the wife's is not stonewalling. That's the husband's. The number one defense of when they're upset, overwhelmed, want to punish somebody is stonewalling. I'm going to take the love away. Or just being overwhelmed and shutting down. And the wife's is contempt, like putting the person down. So you have an unusual case happens. But most of the time it's the other way around. Having said that, you still got a problem. So let's help with the problem. The number one thing you have to do is to have a conversation about the conversation. In other words, so many people, when they see this, when it happens, that's when they'll say something about it. So you say to Shirley, I wish you wouldn't yell at the kids so much. And all of a sudden she shuts down. Then you go, see, there you go again. It's called stonewalling. And on page 327 of the Gottmans, you ought not do that, and that doesn't help. In fact, it makes things a lot worse. You don't do it in the heat of the moment because we're the person, when your wife is stonewalling, she's in her amygdala. Amy G. Dalla, that's her name. Amy G. Dalla is what I call her. And Amy has just said it's fight or flight, and that I'm mad at Derek, and either I want to punish him, or I'm scared of him, or I don't know what to say. I don't have the words, or whatever, or I feel bad. And so to bring up that issue in the heat of the moment just escalates the amygdala. And instead of putting her in a position where she goes, maybe I need to listen to this. So what I would do instead of bringing it up in the heat of the moment, when you're hurt and you're upset and she's liable to escalate, or stonewallers don't escalate, they actually de-escalate. They make the bricks and the mortar of the stone wall that much thicker until it's like, a yard thick. Is to say, I need to talk to you about, I'm into this personal growth stuff and everything. And I need to talk to you about some things that I think would help our relationship and our connection. And I want to find just a time we can be just you and me, no kiddos around, and talk to you about it. Take to dinner or take a walk or whatever. When you do that, you've gotten rid of the distractions. You're no longer the heat of the moment. And she may be more defensive because she might say, what's that about? It's just about some ideas I've got improving it. I don't want to kind of go into it now, but it's not bad. It's good. And then you don't want to get her scared, but no, this is stuff that can make us better. I love you. And then when she agrees to taking a walk around the block a couple of times, or dinner or whatever, then you say something like the following. Francis, I love you and always will, and God put us together. And thanks for making this time. I know that I didn't want to scare you that anything bad's happening. It's not, but it's just important for us, for me, for us to grow. And by the way, if I ever do anything that alienates you, scares you, pushes you away, makes you feel unloved, I need for you to tell me, because I always want to, you're my number one person. I always want to be the best possible Derek for you. Would you do that? And she said, well, sure. And you say, okay, I've been thinking about a way to improve things, and can I bring it up to you? Well, sure. What is it? I don't know if you're aware, but I know that, I don't know what my style is when we're upset. Maybe I cry, or maybe I yell, or maybe I use the wrong language. And I want to be a good person when we disagree, because our relationship is important. But can I give you some feedback on what you do? And again, you can find out what I do too. We talk about that, but maybe at a later time. You go away. No, I don't go away. I'm in the room. Yeah, I know, Francis, you go away, not in the physically, but I lose your heart. What do you mean you lose my heart? Well, sometimes you'll just literally won't talk to me it's been days. Are you aware of that? Well, yeah, but look at all the things you do. We will. Let's take a walk in, like, tomorrow night. We'll talk about those things. But mind if I tell you, I'm not blaming. I don't know what's happening, but I just want us to be better. Can I tell you what it's like for me? How's it like for you? I feel um, alone. I feel like I'm all by myself in this room with the person I love the most, that I want to listen to and talk to and pray together and do cool things together. I feel like I'm all by myself with this person who's so upset and won't let me in. And it's really hard. And I feel sad and alone and all by myself. And it's hard because I miss us so much. And I don't want you to feel bad about this. I just want you to be aware of that. Now, decision tree wise, I just did a decision tree with Tim. She could go, well, I do it because you're mean to me or whatever. Then you say, we'll talk about that tomorrow. I will work on whatever that is. But can you work on, when you're upset, to say the words that made you scared or mad or whatever? Just say, I'm mad at you now, Derek, or I'm scared of you now, Derek, or you made me sad or whatever. Can you use those words? And if she's, if you watch the program for a long time, they've got these 4 levels. There's no problem, mild, moderate, severe. No problem is what we all want to be at, but life doesn't work that way. And there's mild, moderate, severe. If she's mild, she'll say, yeah, I do that. And yeah, I learned that from my dad. He did the same thing. And I don't know what to do about it. Then you just say, we'll work on it. You can get my book, People Feel talks about this. Also, anything from the Gottmans that has the word stonewalling is very good. If she's moderate severe, then it's like, I need to do this and I don't know what else to do, and it's your fault, then you got a different problem. If it gets to that level, which you won't take any ownership or look at it, it's time for a marriage counselor. But there's a lot you can do if she's in the 0 to mild level and slightly moderate that you can do without that. So that's where I'd go with that. Good luck, Derek. By the way, I've been quoting people today. Didn't do it on purpose, but I've been quoting people who are part of the Townsend Institute for Leadership and Counseling. I quoted Patrick Lencioni, and he's our newest fellow. A fellow is a person who's accomplished great things. They've written New York Times bestsellers. He's the dean of organizational health. He wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And he just joined us as a person who teaches our students. He'll be teaching all of our hundreds and hundreds of students in February. And I also quoted the Gottmans, who were also fellows. They've spoken to our students as well. And the reason I brought that up is because, this might be your time to look at your opportunities, where your ceiling is or where you want to go in life. I mean, you always have to think about potential and passion. Am I reaching my potential in my job? Am I reaching my passion in my job? And am I making a living the way I want it? Or you might say, I'm at some level, it's okay, but it's okay is not okay anymore. I've got more in my tank, whether I'm 25 or 75. And I want you to check out the Townsend Institute for Leadership and Counseling. We have 3 programs where you can get either a certificate or a master's. In counseling, we can also not only get a certificate or a master's, but also a PhD now. You can get a certificate or a master's in organizational leadership, run your own organization, or your own entrepreneurial hustle, or be a pastor, or run a church as a pastor. Or you can get a degree in executive coaching, consulting, and develop people. Or you can get a bachelor's if you never had a chance. Academically, we like to say we're from womb to tomb. We're fully online and we're fully accredited in everything. We've got all the bells and whistles. Got a wonderful, wonderful professorial staff. Great, great help. And Stacey's going to put down when our next information session is, if you want to check it out. And in his information session, we have one every few weeks. I show up online, and our great staff do. We answer all your questions, so you'll know about us. But our people are getting great jobs. They feel like their passion's where it needs to be. They're competent. They love what they're doing, and it's opportunity. And take charge of your life. You don't have to kind of do all the same turn the crank you've been doing. We'll help you with that. So hope that helps. All right, Stacey, what's up? Or who's up? Or who's on first?
Okay. You have Anna, who's watching you live now on Facebook, and she says it is shocking to hear such a story about the spouse. My spouse may not communicate with me for weeks. How can this ice be melted? This is my query. We had a wedding anniversary, and my husband asked me what I would like. I answered, I would like fresh flowers as a gift. He began to laugh and asked if I would give him fresh flowers, but he likes sweets, not flowers. My desire is different, flowers. And then his reply is, what a pity that we have a wedding in the winter. I can't pick them off of our neighbor's lawn. I felt silent, and then he began to shout that I have no sense of humor and it hurts him. I felt complete indifference to my desires and unwillingness even to listen, and his unwillingness to even listen to them. He now has been silent for 3 weeks. What advice do you have for Anna?
Oh, that hurts, Anna.
Ouch. Yeah,
that's a major ouch. 3 weeks is pretty serious. I'm going to do kind of a combination path. The first one is, apparently you heard what I said to Derek. Derek's was if there's mild or a bit moderate issues, that applies to that. But I don't want to repeat that because you can see the recording of this. This sounds more severe. 3 weeks is just awful mean. It's just awful mean. And in these kind of cases, I would just, you can try the thing with Derek, but I doubt it's going to work. But try it. Sometimes it works. No reason you shouldn't try it. Or say, have a conversation about the conversation, and I'll change, and here's what hurts me, and I care about you. But at that level, you're going to need, I think, a clinical help, third-party therapist. And when people have this situation, the first thing they think of is, a lot of times, is, well, I'll send them to a shrink. Well, in cases where somebody is that mean and sort of cruel, not a good idea to send them to an individual therapist, because the mandate of the individual therapist is not to pull the marriage together. It's to help that person everything the way they can. And they're only getting that person's side of things. And it's great. I do a lot of, I believe in individual therapy. It's great. But it's sort of like getting somebody who's court mandated. I'm here because the judge says I'll be, picking up trash on the freeway if I don't come. They're not very motivated to change, have insight, learn things, and learn new skills. And so I always say, in a case like yours, is I need for us to see somebody. It's really bad, and I am really concerned about our marriage, and things are breaking inside me, and we need to do this. Now, let's suppose, let's do decision tree-ish. So he says, we don't need that. That's stupid. I don't want that. And you say, well, you kind of push it. Now, we all ought to push things. That's what influence. It's not controlling. It's just influence. It's really important to me, and I would appreciate it. And I think we need it. And I'm really scared about our future. And I don't feel happy with us. And I want to do my own changing. No. And if you just stonewalls that, then you say, I'm going to find a marital therapist who will see me and talk with me about how to have better ways to approach my marriage to you. And I'll just do it without you there. And I want you there, but I'll be talking about how to handle you in a different way. If I were you, better name to, if I were you, Ned, I would want to be in the room if somebody's two people talking about better ways to handle their relationship with me. And sometimes Ned will go, yeah, I better show up. Then you're in there, the marital person does their job, which is you deal with, here's Anna's part, here's Ned's part, et cetera. Or he says, knock yourself out, I'm not going. And then that's what you do. You follow up and you see him every week for a while, and you find out what your issue is, because everybody's got issues, and then how to handle Ned when he does these things for 3 weeks. And sometimes I'll just go to the end game here. In extreme situation where they're really cruel, they're really mean, and no interest in help, and it's serious. And it's not just, well, you're not nice to me as you could be, but it's serious stuff, because 3 weeks is serious. then you're in an abusive situation. And that's when you talk to the therapist and maybe an attorney about how do I do a structured separation. And a structured separation is not a divorce. And it's not just a timeout. Now, timeout just means I'm going to go, I'm going to get a place, you get a place, one of us leaves because I can't stand it. I don't know when I'll get back with it. That's just, I mean, there's nothing happens, but everybody just kind of, time just ticks on. Nothing really redemptive or growth happens. A structured situation, and really good marital therapists know how to do this, is then Anna, during this time away, whoever's in and out of the house, has her job to do. Maybe you need to have better boundaries, or maybe you need to, I don't know, use his love language more, who knows, but that's your job. And Ned has his job. And the therapist makes the call and decides, okay, y'all both working on this. And so you're safe to come back and try it out for a month or two, and not a long time, because maybe the habits go back. But somebody's got to be refereeing that. And the person that's refereeing that is the person that says, you've changed enough, Ned. You've changed enough, Anna. You're not going to be so toxic. He's not going to be so mean. He's learned how to speak up when he's upset. He's learned how to not to make fun of you. He's learned how to not to mean you. He's learned that that's a bad thing. And he's going to lose more of you if he doesn't. He's going to be more of a separation thing. And then they come back. Now, some people, let's suppose, I don't know Ned, but some people are, they just have no interest in changing. And the only thing, I hate to say this, but the only thing that changes them is pain. It's like behavior modification when the dog gets shocked. And you'd like to say, Ned, let's reach the part of you that loves Anna and wants to nurture her and be there for her. And gosh, that's always first. But sometimes people are so narcissistic that it's just the pain. Then it's just, you lose more and more of the good things that Anna is bringing you. You lose my warmth. You lose the fact that I'm interested in you. You lose the fact that I support you. You lose the fact that I'm, I've got wisdom or whatever. And he learns, I don't get good things if I'm not nice to her. Now you would think, wait a minute, an adult should know this. Somebody 35 or 40 should know that. They don't. It's like talking to a 3-year-old. If you're 3 years old and you bonk your 1-year-old daughter, your 1-year-old sister on the head, you're going to be in timeout. You don't say to the 3-year-old, see, it really hurts her and you need to be the bigger person. 3-year-olds say, no, it feels good to hit her on the head. You put him in timeout, and he's in timeout until he goes, I miss all the action. I miss playing by myself. You're going to bonk your sister on the head? Maybe. Back in timeout. Behavior mod until they develop a conscience and a heart and the way to have empathy. I don't know where Ned is, but I just know sometimes a structured separation is the way to go if it's that extreme. Best wishes with that.
Okay, John, your next question comes from Jack in Georgia. He said, Dr. Townsend, I've been reading your books for years. Thank you. They've helped me so much in life, and I'm grateful for the work that you and Henry do. After watching the show last week, and you were speaking about the Institute and growth skills, I was so thankful because I've been at a career crossroads. And I decided after you spoke about the workshop that you and Henry are doing to hop on, and I'm coming next month. He says, but however, I am extremely nervous. I've never done anything like this before. I know that I am in a place in my life at 33 where it is time to step up in my personal growth for my own self and my family, but also in my position as a leader at my company. How can I get past the nervousness that I feel of coming to something like this and opening up in front of people that I don't know?
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a breakthrough week and it's a lot of great stuff going on, but if you've never done anything like this, it's kind of scary.
And John, also, he says his name is Jack for privacy purposes. He just named himself Jack. That's not his real name.
Sure. Jack, you'll hear this at the workshop. You'll be going to, we have 3. We have Ultimate Leadership, Growth Skills, and 1 week intensive for counselors. You'll be going to Ultimate Leadership. And we have kind of a saying. I'll just say it ahead of time. Because everybody comes in with that, like, I haven't done this. This is a small group thing. Is it going to be weird? Am I going to be shamed or whatever? A couple of things to remember. One is that you have to trust the process. I mean, this is a well-researched process that's been vetted. Henry and I have studied a ton when we developed this whole thing and created it. And it's a little like saying, sometimes people say, well, I don't know if I trust all this. It'd be like saying, okay, so you got a rash and you go to your GP and you say, Doc, I've got a rash. And she says, well, let me take a look at you. Now, do you say, now, before you start, Doc, what kind of experience do you have with rashes? Well, I went to med school. Where'd you go to med school? Well, I went to NYU or Columbia. Okay. What were your grades? I had A minus. Huh. Where'd you do your residency? Okay. How many cases have you treated like this? We don't do that once we trust that our GP is a pretty good GP. They did a good job and they've got a good reputation. Things are better. Well, this is research. So take the pill and just trust the process. Second thing is the people that we have working with you. Henry and I do the speaking as well as some other people, but the people doing the teamwork where we have these facilitators that their whole job is to help high-performing leaders, because you're all going to be leaders in there. It's about half business, half pastorate, kind of a good mix. Then small group work. That's what they do. That's what their whole training is working with leaders. So you'll go into a small group, and your very first small group, your leader's going to do kind of an exercise in, okay, well, how weird is this right now? And people will kind of like talk about how weird it is and all that. And everybody goes, hey, we're all the same here. This is a growth thing, and we're going to be opening up, and they're going to help you with that. It's been done for 20 years this way. So they know how to make it safe for you. And the third thing is, I always tell people this: if I were in your shoes, and sometimes I wish I was, I wish I didn't. I wish I could be doing it because it's so helpful watching the benefits. You'd be the first one. You'd be the first one to just jump in and say, well, I feel stuck in my career. I'm 33. It's time for a breakthrough, but I get afraid of this, and I'm not sure I'm on the right position, and I get mad at this person. I'm scared of this and whatever. And you just don't even make any sense. Just throw it out there. Don't edit it. And then all of a sudden, the facilitator go, wow, thanks, Jack. Good start. Let's just get going. And somebody say, hey, I feel the same way. Somebody will say, this happened to me too. And all of a sudden, now you're having this discussion. I have found over doing this, the people that jump in the first and they're the most vulnerable, and they take a risk, they take that pill, they come out after 4 or 5 days going, this was life transforming. I feel so safe and so connected. Now, we have some people, we call them, our executive director, Maureen Price, she calls them, what does she call them, Stacy? Not under the wire or Hail Mary. What does she call them?
When they're doing what?
When they don't ever open up in anything until like the very last day, an hour before they get on their plane to go home. That's when they finally bring out their stuff.
Oh, yes, that was me. I should remember this.
It's like, I can't remember. Let's call it 11th hour, Hail Mary.
Yes. They're
the ones that'll call about a month later and say, I love the experience, but if I had it to do over again, I'd have jumped in. So glad you're coming. Jack, I know it's a fake name and you had to do that, but next week, whenever it is, next month, a few weeks from now, I'll be there. Just come up and say, I'm Jack, and then tell me your real name. And I'll give you a high five and be glad to see how the process is going. So, hey, there's one person you know now. See you there.
Nice. I like that. Okay.
I can't remember what Maureen calls it.
I can't either, but it'll probably dawn on me after we hang up. And I'll be sure and drop the link in case people are interested in coming throughout the rest of the year.
Transformative.
Absolutely. Okay, your next question comes from Catherine over on Instagram. And she says, Dr. Townsend, I watch your videos that get put out every week on this channel, and I apply almost every single one of them somewhere in my life. They are super helpful, so thank you for doing this. I am having an issue at home. I've been married for 5 years to my husband. I adore him so much. And I've always heard that statement that one usually loves more in the marriage, that there's usually one person who either is more in a crush or loves more or cares more or shows more affection and attention. And I am that person. But my husband often calls me dramatic or a drama queen. And she says, at first it was funny, but that word tends to get thrown around a lot. And now it just stings and it hurts that he says that. How can I have a conversation with him to let him know that I do not want him to call me this anymore, even though I have told him how it bothers me in the past?
Is the name Catherine?
Catherine.
Okay. Yeah, Catherine, it's not a fun word. And I've had to tell friends of mine, when somebody calls their spouse or whoever that, male or female, I have to say, I know you think it's funny, but it makes a person's emotional being kind of like childish and immature. And, do you want, you don't want, if you're the thinker, do you want to be called boring Spock thinker dude? I mean, it's not funny. So I agree with you, is what I'm saying. Now, you said when we heard your statement, how do I have a talk? But it seems like you've already had a talk, maybe an initial talk, but you said, I've told him I don't like it. So you've had some kind of a talk, but clearly the talk is not working. And this happens in marriage where the first talk, the person sort of like either forgets it or they're self-absorbed or they think that it's not that big a deal or they want to get away with it or who knows. But it hasn't worked. So we're going to do a better talk, a more effective talk. And I just want to kind of take you through the steps. I think I would approach it a bit like this. Harold, I'm coming up with a different name. Everybody gets on me for saying it's all Susie and Sam. Trying to do better. Oh, Maureen just texted me. Thank you, Maureen. Photo finishers. Yeah, Jack, if you don't open up until you're about to get on the plane, then you finally talk about your childhood and your dreams and all that. Everybody says kumbaya is great. You're called a photo finisher. Don't do it. Is that what you were, Stacy?
That's where I was.
Now, do you regret it?
Well, not now, because I've been working with you guys for 8 years. So I get it every month that I'm there.
No.
But then I did.
Well, no, I would regret it now if I were you. I would say I'm so much better because I'm involved. I get it. But yeah, if I had to do it over again, I would have done it differently.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. So now you got Stacy and John. We know Jack. So come on, say that to us.
There you go.
Something like this, Catherine. Can we talk about? I never start with the thing that bothers you, because then they're going to trigger or knee jerk or whatever. Just say, can we talk about us? Okay. And you say, you call me drama queen, and I've told you I don't like it. Well, you just take it too seriously. It's just being funny. I know, but it hurts me. And Harold, first off, I'm not perfect. And I know that you think I'm like hyper emotional, and I don't want to be. I'm emotional. I don't know if I'm hyper emotional, but it would help me to know in a nice way if you would say, can you dial that back a little? Maybe I just laugh way too loud, or maybe I boo-hoo and cry too much, or who knows? And I'd rather not edit myself around you, because I don't want you to edit around me. I don't want anybody to be mean or abusive, but I'd rather be careless with you. But if that just bothers you that I have these emotions, just kind of let me know where the parameters are, and I'll try to be reasonable with it. So, yeah, the word, editing is not what love is about. The word for trust in the Old Testament is to be careless. Like when we trust God, that's what the Hebrew says, to be careless. That's, think about how David talked to God in the Psalms. Hey, are you there? Are you even love me? I'm the king, and I'm in the cave, and the fake king's coming up trying to kill me. What's going on? David did not edit with the Lord because he trusted God's love for him. And so in the best marriages, people don't edit and say, this is okay to say, this is not okay to say, got to watch this, walk on eggshells. That's just not a trusting marriage. But let's start at the beginning. I don't want to, bug you. And then, you say, so I'm willing to change whatever is changeable if you don't like these parts of me. And tone them down. But I also need for you just not to use that phrase anymore. Well, it shouldn't hurt you. Well, Harold, I just told you that I love you and I'm willing to do something for you. And I'm not asking much of you. So this doesn't feel like kind of like I'm changing for you and you're changing for me. I'm kind of falling on my sword here for you. I'm willing not to be totally who I am for right now. And you're still kind of criticizing me. This hurts me. Now, remember, normal, mild, moderate, severe. If he's normal, he goes, I'm so sorry. If he's mild, he'll say, that's true. If he's slightly moderate, he goes, well, I think you need a thicker skin. And if he's more moderate and severe, he just is mean. Let's hope that Harold gets it and you have made great, great moves toward it. But my point is, the thing I'm going to say now, Catherine, that's different than what I've said in other, we had some similar calls about a spouse that's doing things that are hurtful, is don't you give this up. A lot of people say conflict is so hard for me. I had a client yesterday say, it's hard. It's so hard for me. He doesn't change. And every time we do, it's a big mess. And so I'm just giving it up. And I'll go, we got to keep supporting you because this is not going to go the right direction. So if you find that he goes south on you and makes fun of you and devalues and says you're silly, either you get the wherewithal to say, this isn't going away. We're going to keep talking about this. Or you got to get some people around you that you love you and they're pro-marriage. They don't want you to leave him. They love you. They love Harold. They want it to work. But they're kind of like Moses' buddies that, held up his arms, because things like this don't get better over time. They're like there's a metastatic function to them, Catherine. So nip it in the bud, be the consistent, persevering person, and escalate if you need to. Hope that helps. Well,
hard.
Well, it's hard because sometimes people will bring it up and they kind of squeak instead of saying it. And they'll tell me, oh, I spoke up. And then when I see exactly what happened in the session, like the one that's upset will go, you're a great person. And every now and then you do this, but it's not that big a deal. And they squeak. They're like a mouse. And they think, see, I told him. And the spouse is like, I didn't even hear it. Some people, some of the time, us males, we kind of need a lot more directness. So when you say I've said it, it's when you're asking for their full attention. You say the words, you don't apologize. You're not mean, but you are direct. And then and only then can you say, I told him and nothing happened. Just don't hint at it. Be sarcastic about it. Come at it sideways, be indirect about it. It doesn't count. You don't get points for that. Mm-hmm. Direct, nice and direct is the only way you can say, I have told them and nothing's happening. And then we go to the next step. Because if you do that and you haven't, and you're doing it the wrong way, I'm going to say, start at the beginning. You really haven't told them. A lot of times the spouse will say, I really care about them. I know I'm kind of a goofball, but now they're crying and they're telling me, and I didn't know this. So directness counts. Be courageous. People need courage.
Yes, I love that. The directness, a skill we can all build on, right?
It is. It takes courage. Okay. It takes courage and people giving you courage when you don't have courage. The French, the word courage, means your heart. And you got to have people who build the heart inside you to do hard things.
That is very true. Well, that is our time for today. And if you were not able to reach us today, be sure and join us. We'll be back live the next 3 weeks, and hopefully the tech gremlins will be worked out and the phone lines will be all open.
Well, thank you, Stacey. And thanks to all of you who were vulnerable with how tough things are. And I hope that there are answers that will make sense to you. And just thanks and our viewing community for being there. And hope you got help too. Have a good week.